And you've just heard If You've Changed Your Mind by Adam Thom, which is the third and final single from Adam's EP, Through the Candle Smoke and Burning Sage, which is out now. And I'm delighted to be joined by Adam now. Hello there.
Hello, how you doing? Great to be here.
I'm really good, thanks. And before we talk about the EP more widely, could you tell us about the track we've just heard, If You've Changed Your Mind?
So, if you've changed your mind, came about actually. When I say we, myself, Neve Corky, my friend Scott McPherson of the Black Denims, and our other friend Kev Young, who's also in the Black Denims. We went into the studio back in 2023 in August, and we were doing lots of recording for various things. Like most of my first EP came out of that recording sessions. Neve did her first three singles. The Black Denims did uh, the second EP. And while that was happening, it was a very, very creative time. And I kind of just would come home at night and would write loads. One of the songs of which came out of that was If You've Changed Your Mind. And I played it in maybe the last day or the second last day in the studio. I was just playing about on a guitar and Scott heard me playing it. I was like, what's that? So it wasn't finished.
Hmm.
But what became If You've Changed Your Mind, me and Scott sat down together and wrote that. So yeah, that came about as a collaboration with Scott McPherson, who we have collaborated on many, many songs over the years.
And collaboration is a key thing to your music. You can hear
Yeah,
it across many projects, but also on this EP and even on this single track, you've got quite the kind of roster of musicians.
yeah, I'm very, very lucky to have as many amazing players as well as pals. They're all pals, mind you.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative effort. I'm very, very lucky to have such great players. I'm always in awe of, when we go into the studio, I kind of let them just do what they do best. That's the way I like to work with it. I'll have a lot of ideas, and the direction in which we go is kind of directed, you know, at first by my original vision, but players like Rue Geddes, Willem McKee, Scott McPherson, they come in and it's just they bring a certain magic to the tracks.
There seems to be a real kind of supportive, I think it's part of the thing about Glasgow, maybe wider Scottish music scene at the moment, is there's a kind of real support. I've often, if you're not on stage, I see you at a gig where one of these other people are, playing on stage. That seems to
Yeah,
work.
it's lovely. The Glasgow music scene is so welcoming like that. You run into people all the time, and everyone's so lovely. Whether, like you said, it's at a gig. I remember last December we were at the Babyface and the Belting Boys gig at the Rum Shack, and I saw you there.
Yeah,
You run into people all the time, and that's a lot of the time that collaborations can come out of that.
yeah,
It's good that I've bumped into you. I've actually got this track. Do you want to come and sing on it?
yeah.
A lot of the times, everyone's very up for it and will say yes.
And I guess that probably applies to the rest of the EP as well. Lots of different. Is it the same core of musicians with other people coming in?
My band consists of Rue, Scott, Neve, Willem. On this EP, we've also got Chris Quinn, we've got Timmy Allen, and some various others. There's a track on it called Lonely Hill that I was lucky enough to have Stuart Neal of the Niche family
Mhm.
and Jack Richardson come in to do some backing vocals on that. So it's the core band's mainly the same throughout the EP, and then there are a few other people scattered uh, across various other tracks. We were lucky enough to a very dear friend of mine is a guy called Red Canyon, and he quite a legend in the Glasgow music scene. A
Yeah.
lot of people, as soon as they hear Red Canyon, they go, "Oh, yeah, I know Nick," um, and he's an amazing banjo player. Taught me a lot of what I do now. I now play banjo, and it's thanks to him really. But he came on board for If You've Changed Your Mind. and another track in the EP called Race Loves 10 to 1. He played a banjo that was once owned by the great Billy Connolly. So that's whenever he brings that banjo out, everyone in the room's like, because it's so gorgeous. It's such a lovely, lovely instrument, and he obviously plays it so well.
If you're known as Red Canyon, then you're going to be a legend, I think, isn't it?
Of course, you know he's a Glasgow cowboy, from the mountains of Drumchapel, as we like to say.
Yeah,
But he carries the name very well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we talk more about the EP, going back to If You've Changed Your Mind, there's a cracking video with it as well.
That was a lot of fun.
Was that shot? Where is it? Looks beautiful wherever you've shot it.
So that was actually shot in Eaglesham. We went out into a field, and it was a lovely, lovely day. We had lots of studio footage that my brother Finlay actually came into the studio when we were recording Red Canyon's parts, and there was loads and loads of footage from the studio. And I'd always been thinking, how do we put this out? What's the best way to do it? So my good friend Sam O'Neill, who's done various other videos with me, he did the Paint Upon a Love Song video, Song for June as well. It was all shot by him. Gave him a call, and I had this idea that we piece it together with us having a laugh in Eaglesham, really. And I'm really happy with how that video came out. I'm really proud of it. And love it's a very funny video, and we were having fun doing it. So, you know, I hope that comes across.
Yeah, it definitely does come across. It looks like you're having a ball of a time, and a beautiful sunny day in Eaglesham, which is
gorgeous.
Which is fairly rare.
Yeah.
So how was the EP recorded? You know, what was the practical? For instance, you've got all these musicians. Do you have a producer as well?
So I work with a guy called Gus Stirrett of Solace Sounds. He plays with Tom McGuire and the Brassholes and Fatsuit. Gus is amazing, and he's worked with me almost on all of my releases over the past 4 years. And we have a great process. We go in, the studio is always so welcoming. So everyone, as soon as we say we're doing it with Gus, everyone's going to have a good time. And we rehearse it beforehand, but it's like you said, we go in and it's a team. We track most of it live as much as we can in the studio, with a few exceptions. And then it's more or less done. Gus is just an amazing producer. So we're very, very lucky to have somebody it's not always the case for, you know, a lot of musicians feel that recording's like a battle. I feel they talk about it, that it's a tedious process. Whereas when we go into the studio with Gus in particular, it's a breeze. And yeah, it's good.
And so in terms of the songs, are they your songs though?
So I wrote most of them in the summer of last year.
Right.
And when I was releasing the first EP, which came out in November of last year.
Yeah.
That was getting finalized while I was writing this EP. Then in December of last year, I went in to track almost all of this EP, with the exception of Song for June, because that was recorded live in the Straventown Mill. But I wrote the songs I feel like it was very quickly with when it came together. It came together. Wasn't really sitting on many of these songs for long, except Race Loves 10 to 1 I had written when I moved to Glasgow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd kind of sat on that one for a while. But with the rest of the EP, it was a very quick process. I'd actually got a typewriter from the Barras.
A proper old typewriter.
Yeah, a proper old typewriter. And I saw it, and I was like, I've always wanted to write in a typewriter. You know, it's always the go-to, or has been the go-to thing to write on for many writers. Dylan did it. So I wanted my shot at it. and it did change the way I was writing
Yeah,
songs.
I
It
bet.
really was inspiring to sit behind the typewriter in the middle of the night when I do most of my writing. I stay with my brother and my girlfriend, and they would often say that they could just hear me typing away in the living room at night, just this click, 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 click. But I got this EP out of it, and I'm very, very pleased with it. Yeah.
There is definitely something romantic about that, the click, click, click of the typewriter, I think.
And any mistake that you make, John Barnes says that, when he would write his plays, he preferred doing it on a typewriter because if you made a mistake, you had to take out and redo it. And then you were always proofreading.
Yeah.
You were always going back and making the changes that if you were on a laptop and when you delete it, it's gone. And that in and of itself is very inspiring as a writer to see your mistakes that can also be happy accidents.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But did your typing improve over time? Because, I know myself,
Yeah.
a while to get good at typing.
Yeah. It took me a while to get used to it, but by the end of it, I felt like I was on a roll
Good. Yeah.
writing on the typewriter.
Yeah. The writer I often think when it comes to typewriters, Jack Kerouac, who would just like sellotape together bits and bits of papers and just do screeds and screeds and screeds of it. And I love that.
I have a friend of mine that's a poet, and he would talk about he often used to get a roll of receipt paper, and he'd always have that in his typewriter. And whenever he would have an idea, he would just see it and he'd just type it in.
Yeah.
And because you just rip it off if it was wasn't very good, you just scrunch it, put it in the bin. Nobody needs to see it. Very cheap. But he would often say that he would get some of his best lines just writing on this typewriter that had the receipt paper in it.
That's a brilliant story. And in terms of the songwriting process, apart from bringing in a typewriter, is it kind of the same every time, or how does it work? How do you build them up?
My songwriting process, it varies.
Right.
Many of my songs, most of my songs are written from past experiences. But with this EP, it was the first time really that it's not all personal. There were some things that were happening with friends of mine or just, my surroundings. And I was
Yeah.
an observer as opposed to the main character and what was going on. So I was able to use that as a platform to create. So it's usually the same. I'll write with my guitar. The words will usually come at the same time for me. I don't normally sit with the words first. Everything kind of just comes at once, I find, for me anyway. But I suppose this EP was a slight, dip in the road for my past songwriting. It's more of an outsider's point of view, as well as, a lot of the songs on this EP are about me leaving home, being from Aberdeen and moving away, looking back on that and missing it.
Yeah. Okay.
These past experiences really stick with me. I don't normally write them at the exact time that it's all happening, but I'll sit down to maybe write something, and then all of a sudden, I'll have this. I'll remember this image from growing up, or something that somebody's told me, a story that somebody's told me that's happened to them, and then that'll really set me down the path of, right, okay, I know where the song's going. Once I know where the song's going, it comes very, very quickly.
I think that's really interesting. I think sometimes you don't really understand a place till you leave it and you reflect back upon it. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of what you think you're doing with these songs?
Yeah, the old saying that the grass is always greener. It is. You don't know how good something is until you don't have it anymore. Mm-hmm. Although I go back to Aberdeen all the time, my parents still live there. When I go home, it's never quite as I remember it. Everything was better. Everything looked more grand in my mind. And I grew up just on the outskirts of Aberdeen, and it was lovely. I could walk 10 minutes, and I was really in the middle of nowhere, walking amongst fields, and my friend had a farm up that way. So we'd spent hours and hours as children playing on his farm and, on our bikes or whatever. But going back to those places, everything's just a bit, maybe it's just you make it more grand in your own mind. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it was always like that. I don't know. But you're right. You don't know how good someone is until you've kind of left that place.
Yeah, and I think memory can play funny tricks on you. Absolutely. What we haven't mentioned is playing live, which I know is something you love to do. Have you got plans to play live? I think you've got the launch of the EP coming up soon.
We've got the launch at the Glad Cafe on the 5th of December, so we're really looking forward to that. We've got Willem McKee and Alex Hines of Quick that are going to be opening up the show for us. Yeah. So that's going to be really good. Then going forward from there, I've got a slot at Celtic Connections.
Oh, excellent. Do you know where it, or you will know where it is, whereabouts?
It's at Cottier's.
Oh, fantastic.
So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a lovely, lovely gig. And I've got plans in the works at the moment to do a wee tour in May, late April, May, for, taking the EP around the country and really getting to tell the stories in person, because I love doing that. I love crafting the story.
And when you're playing live, is it going to be full band or is it just you? What's the situation?
So the band consists of mandolin, bass, and myself, accompanied by Niamh Corky on backing vocals. So that will be the core band for most of these gigs coming up, especially the Glad Cafe. We've got some special guests that will be making appearances, but I'll save that for a surprise on the night. But yeah, it's I kind of like the stripped back band that will accompany me. I really enjoy having Scott and Willem and Niamh there, and then we can obviously make the records bigger. But when I play live, it's mainly the trio.
Yeah. And I don't think I've ever asked you, but who are your main influences? You mentioned Dylan earlier on, but
Dylan's a big influence. I grew up listening to lots of Johnny Cash. Jerry Rafferty he's a massive influence on me. Guy Clark.
Mm-hmm.
The great songwriters of the 70s, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson. Country music was what I was brought up on.
Right.
And the outlaw troubadour songwriter, that really stuck with me. It still does. Lots of people can guess that from the look of with the hair and the beard. The Beatles were also a massive influence. McCartney has had a massive effect on my music since I was about 15.
Yeah.
So there are various influences throughout. I'd say with this stuff, and especially on this EP, the main influences that you could take from it would definitely be the likes of Guy Clark and Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's loads. I could spend all day listing my
Yeah. None of those are a complete surprise, I have to say, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Are there any that might surprise us? Have you got any music that you think, actually I like a bit of that, but you might not hear it in my music?
I grew up listening to a lot of the Carpenters.
Oh yeah.
The ways in which the Carpenters would arrange their songs.
Yeah.
Karen Carpenter being the singer that she is, or that she was, had a massive effect on my musical upbringing. When I was younger, I never really liked it. I would make on that it was terrible music because my grandparents would play it, my mum would play it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the cool thing to say that you listen to the Carpenters with your grandma. But they are a big influence on my music. You maybe can't hear that. I don't think you can really in the stuff that's on this EP.
But they're sensational. The Carpenters albums are just incredible.
amazing. I love the Carpenters.
Adam, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. All the best with the EP and
Thank
with
you so
the
much.
concert at the Glad.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you for having me. And yeah.
This is Adam Thom and Song for June.